Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Culture Vultures with me, Alan Thomson. Today I'm joined by a very good friend and a very good comedian. It's Alan J.
Hey!
Woo! Oh, I should clap this, shouldn't I? Yeah, hold on. So how are you doing, mate?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I never thought I'd get to talk about this on a podcast.
Yeah, well, see, I was going to say we'll keep it as a secret, but it's going to be the title of the podcast, so we may it's already been blown already. So, Tomb Raider.
Yep. Boom.
So why Tomb Raider?
When I think pop culture, I think what am I most into when it comes to pop culture, and it is probably that because it was the thing that kind of got me into video games. And every time someone comes to my house, they go, "Oh my god, you're a massive Tomb Raider fan," because I've got this massive glass cabinet with just a lot of Lara Croft figurines. I know I almost messed up the swearing thing within a minute. But yeah, like I've got like tons of wee figures that I've kind of collected over the years, all the games, the films on 4K. Got these 2 statues that are quite hefty. Like I paid off one of them, which was like 450 quid, and it's like 20 inches. And yeah, I paid it off in 2021, and it didn't arrive until April this year. The one time that I wasn't in the UK to get it, so that was a pain in the bum. But it's bloody beautiful.
So what is it? Is it like a statue?
Yeah. It's like the one from Rise of the Tomb Raider. Like 10 is like the base, and then you just get like her in this really cool pose with like the red jacket and the glow stick.
So what was your first experience then with Tomb Raider? What was the
when I was a kid, it was I was born in 1992, so like growing up, she was all kind of like about the telly on the Lucasade adverts, and then it was Angelina Jolie. But for me, the first time I played one was there was a kid upstairs, and I used to go up to his house, and his dad would let him play things you weren't supposed to. Like I played GTA 3, that was one of the first games I played, and I remember being in school and getting in trouble because I told her all these amazing tips that you could do that you should not hear from a 9-year-old.
Yeah. Kill them and get your money back.
That was exactly what it was.
Aye, we've all done it. So was it games then? Was your first experience, or was it the films? What was the?
Well, it was Tomb Raider 3 was the first one I played.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember the first few levels were set in this really cool Indian jungle, and it got me kind of. I've only really been abroad once, but it got me really interested in learning about other places in the world, and like finding out just how different they were. Like ancient Egypt, I got a bit interested in that. Yeah, I just remember thinking Lara herself was just so bloody cool as well.
Yeah, she's the first kind of proper head. She was like one of the mascots for PlayStation when it came out, which just shows how massive she was at the time. First time I ever played it was on PC. So my cousin had it on PC, and the only thing we done was the obvious thing, which is locking the butler in the freezer. Which
I thought you were going to say the nude cheat.
Oh no. No, they had a family computer, but it was in the living room. So, and I was maybe about 7 or 8 year old or something like that. So, yeah, I wasn't really into nude Lara Croft then.
Well, you couldn't actually get her nude. That was a lie. They said that it was in the first game, and then as a wind up, the developers put out a code to get her nude in the second game. But if you put it in, she would jump into the sky and blow up.
So that's like an Easter egg, one of the early Easter eggs. There you go then. Aye, so but as we say, it started movies. It started off as like Angelina Jolie, as you said. Were you a fan of the movies?
I don't remember when I saw them. I think the first time I saw the films was way after I played the games. So I went to see The Cradle of Life with my befriender in 2003, and I liked it. I liked the films. I think Angelina Jolie's really good. Like without her, it would have just been of a cheesy mess, but she was absolutely bloody fantastic. They made a few changes with the story that I didn't really like that the games have since adapted. Like so in the original like 6 games when they had the first developer in Derby, her kind of story was that she was kind of disowned by her parents because she chose a life of adventure,
right.
and she was supposed to be like married off into aristocracy, but went, I'm going to do this, and then she kind of made her own fortune and her own like fame through exploring, but then they changed it to be like, her dad was an adventurer, and she's following in daddy's footsteps, and the franchise has been like that now for 20 years, and like fans of it are just so bloody sick, and like every time I play a game she goes, "Oh, dad was right," I'm just like, oh, here we go. Just it's so typical because like people used to talk about her like she was it's weird. Like her cultural influence was bigger than the actual games themselves.
Yeah.
So people remember just her being portrayed as like this very sexy thing, which is weird because she looked like she was made of Play-Doh. But Play-Doh with boobs.
Polygon boobs, yeah.
Aye. But yeah, it was so weird because in the games it wasn't like that. She was this real kind of like powerful figure, and like also back then I knew I was a wee gay boy since I was very young. So like a lot of game characters were these big, strong, manly men who always gets the girl. So seeing like a woman do it, even though it's not the same, it was still like, oh, you can be very powerful, but you can also be different. So like I always saw her as this very powerful figure. Like it never really mattered to me that she had like a tiny waist and back problems because of your chest. But yeah, I just saw it as powerful, and then it was so weird that they like tried to kind of change it a few 10 years ago when they rebooted it.
Yeah.
I think I've got way off track from your original question.
That's
yeah,
that's what it's all about.
good. But in 2013, yeah, they rebooted it.
I was playing it this morning.
Yeah, I do love those games, but like the change of the character annoys me because they acted like she used to always be like just a sex object. And now they're like, no, it's more feminist, but it's not, because you've taken her from being very powerful to being, you were saying like, oh no, we don't want her, not a power fantasy, but they want people to feel like they have to protect her. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, you play that for an hour and she's like crying, and then she's like, oh my God, I forgot that I could use scrap to make military grade weapons and shoot men between the eyes. I am so random.
What am I like?
First 10 minutes she kills a deer, then by the end she's like, I'm going to open my venison restaurant.
No, I know. I was playing that, as I say, just before I came out, and it was like watching like the original Tomb Raider where she can scale in, and then in this one she's slipping and falling and getting, I'm falling. It just doesn't seem like the same Lara Croft.
That lassie's going to need jags in her bum for the rest of her life.
Aye. When that thing goes through her side, that looks so sore. But aye. But I mean, you saw it in the original games where she's like doing like Simone Biles style jumps, so she's just standing straight, and then it's like, and I'm up 7 foot. And shooting wolves in the first game has to be the most hilarious thing in the world, because you shoot a wolf and it does a backflip no matter what. Just flips, lands on its back, and it's there. But then there was obviously the jump scare, the fantastic bit with the T-Rex. What game was that?
That was the very first one.
Was it the first one? Was it? I mean, it was just there's Tomb Raider. I think like you see like Uncharted, it's kind of switched a bit, because you see Tomb Raider, and then like you see obviously Uncharted have took quite a lot from Tomb Raider, and then the new Tomb Raider feels like Uncharted with a woman. But I mean, I still do kind of love the games, like, but I've not been like massively into it. So it's just it's good to get a perspective of somebody that is really into it. So as we were talking about Polygon with pointy breasts, is that the reason you're gay then? Because you saw a woman and thought they're not as pointy as I thought they were going to be.
It's weird when you go back, man, because they got remastered recently, but you can switch back to the graphics, and like people really got after this.
Aye, she was a really kind of big sex symbol, and Angelina Jolie obviously helped that a lot.
I had a dream about her where we were both naked, and I was just like, oh, I'd really love you as Lara Croft. Like, that's the gayest dream you can have.
Just soft, lying next to
Ready to go again? Oh, you're such a good actress. Do a third one.
See, that's the thing as well, because I mean, if anything proves that being gay isn't a choice, it's like how can you watch her climb out that bath and say, nah, I prefer dicks?
Well, that film was very equal, because Daniel Craig had a shower scene as well.
Was he the guy in that?
Aye.
Was he the guy that says, I need to go for a cold shower?
Yep.
Is that Daniel Craig?
James Bond and Lara Croft in the same film.
There you go.
Bloody fantastic.
Aye.
I remember pausing that shower scene when I had to take it.
So, I'm allowed to. I don't want to go right deep in things like that, but when did you know you were gay? You said pretty early on you knew.
Oh, I very, very young. Like, we tried to work on a joke about my sex. I remember my dad said I was quiet for like half an hour, and he was like, oh my God, where's Alan? And he came in and he found me with like one of his magazines with just all these naked ladies. And I was just kind of flicking through it, and then I was like, oh my God, they've got really good hair. That would be that's a pretty big giveaway. Aye. So like, what was it like? What was it like kind of growing up
gay in Castle Milk?
Bloody horrible, because like a lot of people thought it was fine, but a lot of people grow up and they're like, oh, that's gay, oh. It'll be 10 minutes in, I'm allowed to say slurs. Can you put a disclaimer? It's like, it's all right, he can say it.
He can say it.
The people, it was like, oh, poof this, poof that and stuff. And like, it makes you associate it with like negativity. So you're like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And then, you know, you go to the library and you look it up and stuff and you're seeing all this mad Catholic stuff. Like, they're pedophiles, they're burning in hell. And I'm like, bloody... It's weird, man. It's like sitting on a computer thinking you're a paedophile before you've got your first pube. Like, it's just mental, the shit you read. But I got moved to... my mum moved as, like, it was like the scummiest bit, but it was near the West End. Right. So I went to like a high school where there was a lot more people. So like it was quite diverse. Like there was a lot of Muslims, so that was my first time being around people who weren't white or weren't like Christian or Protestant. Also, like I don't know, people were just more opening and more welcoming and stuff. So yeah, I kind of came to terms with it around that time, and just it's weird to know it as a kid.
Yeah. So what age would that have been then?
Quite young, man. Really like young, it's just weird. I remember the way people used to talk about girls, and I was like, "Oh, I fancy a boy instead." But it was never a sexual thing, because it was like way before I even knew what anything sexual was. I just knew, oh, I fancy him.
Right.
Then you kind of realize that that's no normal, because people tell you it's normal, and to you it's just kind of like,
it's not just what I like. You exactly. Aye. But I didn't mean to get into that. I don't know if it's fine. You know what I mean? I don't
That's whatever you want.
But so we're also talking about movies and the TV series, the stuff like games. What I've kind of now, even more so now with things like Last of Us and Fallout and stuff like that. Do you think games need TV shows?
Not really.
Or films?
I think they're fun, but I don't think they're needed. I don't really watch a lot of TV shows. Silas has been trying to annoy me to watch The Last of Us for ages, but I don't know. I just find because they're so long, I find them hard to sit down with. But I'm glad that they seem to be doing better with them. Like Last of Us and Fallout, I've heard very good things about, and people have always thought you can't do that with video games and turn it into a good film or a good TV show. But I think we're finally starting to see them get to grips with it. Yeah, shame that Tomb Raider's not been one of them yet. But there's an anime coming out, and I think Amazon are doing a TV series and a film. So we'll see.
See what happens. I mean, I don't think films suit because it's. How many hours of gameplay? You're talking at least 10 hours.
Yeah, you have to cram way too much down.
Aye, and like it's all, you don't actually build characters enough. You don't kind of build empathy really with any of them. It's just kind of like I watched the most recent Tomb Raider with
Alicia Vikander.
Thank you, I couldn't say her name. And it was that was the one as well where they were talking about my dad. I don't know where my dad is and stuff. So they were trying to go and find their dad.
The bloody damn man.
I fell asleep during it, I'm not going to lie. But I did think that was the highest rated computer game or video game. What would you say?
Video game.
Aye. Because I was thinking about that, like computer's a computer.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
I guess more of an American thing.
Aye.
Or an old person thing.
See, aye, it's an old person thing. Aye. I'm only 3 years older than you, but aye. It does. But anyway, it's like the highest rated video game adaptation on Rotten Tomatoes was that. But I mean, what's the competition? Resident Evil.
I mean, there was the Detective Pikachu one that came out that was pretty good. But I think
that was after it, so I think that might have been like the highest one because it was the highest one at the time. So I suppose Detective Pikachu would have been
Wreck-It Ralph as well. Yeah, I think the animated ones.
I can see because Wreck-It Ralph, obviously he's like a Disney invention, but the amount of kind of cameos and stuff like that in it was. I love Disney. Like, that's my jam. So, but I seen like. In the background, I watch the background more than anything when I watch Wreck-It Ralph because the amount of Easter eggs you've got. Like you've got like all like the kind of one-up shop and stuff like that where you can buy a life for Mario and stuff like that. It's just, I think that things like that, like if you can do it well and you can like incorporate other things into it from computer games, from games, it actually works quite well. But I think focusing on things like there was Resident Evil, and then there was Doom.
I missed that, but that was Uwe Boll,
with
wasn't
The Rock. Aye, The Rock was in Doom.
I don't know if that was Uwe Boll. Do you know about him?
Who?
Uwe Boll.
Uwe Boll, that's who I was going to bring up. I couldn't remember his name. So him and I can't remember the guy's name for Inglourious Bastards. He's in quite a lot of his films.
No,
it's Tig Tai to anyway.
No idea.
It's another German guy, but he's what ones has he done? Is Blood Rain?
He did the Blood Rain films, and so I bloody loved, no pun intended, but I loved those games so much. Like I was a very wee dark goth kid, so like cool, powerful women, vampires sucking blood, and Nazis and demons. That was like so up my alley. I was obsessed with those two games. And then they came out, and it was really weird because the first game set in World War II, she's an American, and then he's setting it in like the 19th century, and suddenly she's talking with an English accent and made her this really weird wee cowardly character. Then the next one is in the Wild West. And then she spends the last like 15 minutes with her face in a puddle as everything else goes on around her. They were bloody terrible, man. It turns out they were all like tax write-offs, but
that makes sense.
he made a parody. He made the third one, which was based on the first game because it was World War II. And then he made a parody of it side by side with this overweight actress called Blubberella. It was basically Blood Rain, but she's got like two swords, but like then she always stops fighting to eat sandwiches and stuff. It was so stupid. The trailer's online. I've never watched the actual film, but it's so horrible that it's really funny.
Aye. I mean, that's his thing, isn't it? His thing is games and so bad it's good.
Aye, and tax evasion.
Aye. So how? I mean, it makes sense that that's the reason that they were made as tax write-offs, because nobody's asked him, and he's got hundreds of films.
Yeah,
he's
an absurd amount.
Aye, and there's loads of them. I can't remember any of them now that you've brought them up, which is what I should have really have been.
Postal was one of them. Alone in the Dark. I don't remember the other ones.
Is he the Alone in the Dark as well?
I think so. Yeah.
See, that's a new game as well.
Billy Zane, was that it?
Was he
He's
in
a few of his films.
Oh no, it's got a dead German name. Oh, I can't remember.
Ben Kingsley was in the first Blood Rain film, actually.
What?
And he had this really crap-looking wig, and it was so obvious that they just put in a scene of him with a wig on a stand next to him. So it's like, that's why he's wearing a wig. And then they said he got an interview a few years ago. It was like, why would you do that film? And he says, well, I wanted to be a cool old vampire. So totally selfish, childish reasons. I was like, I respect that, Mr. Ben.
You've got to, haven't you? Aye, but there's been more bad films about video games than there have been good ones. But Last of Us and Fallout are probably, I would say to you, probably give them a chance, because if you played Last of Us, I take it,
yeah. I played the first one, loved it, and then I was so annoyed because I wasn't in the mood to play the second one, but I rushed through it because I wanted to avoid spoilers when I just wasn't in the mood, and that just kind of ruined the experience. But, I thought it was fine, man. A lot of the outrage in that game I just find so ridiculous. Like, I don't know, muscle women bad. And it's like, if you saw a woman like that in real life, you would be begging her to sit on you.
100%. Aye. Aye, Rhea Ripley. Do you watch wrestling at all?
No.
Oh, aye. Well, Rhea Ripley for my bros. Comedy competitions. This is what we're going to bring up. Next guest is going to be somebody who's going to be very pro comedy competitions. But how do you feel about them? The reason I'm asking is because is it second time?
So
BBC New Comedy Awards?
Applied for the BBC New Comedy Awards last year. So I started in January 2023, and last year I sent them a set that I'd done in after 5 months of comedy, got on the short list. So how it works is, so last year 1,200 people applied. I got to the top 100, which means you get to do the showcase at the Fringe. Then from there they pick the top 30 to go on to do the semi-finals, and then the top 6 end up in the final. Which is where our good friend Dean T. Byrne got into, opened the King's Theatre in Glasgow, which we're very thrilled for him. He's bloody amazing.
Well done.
So I applied again this year, and I've done so much work on my comedy where I thought, oh my God, I'll probably have a good chance, and then I didn't get it, and I was a wee bit gutted about it, but I was like, one thing I've learned this year is when it comes to things like competitions, you can control what you put into the world, but you can't really control what comes back to you. And sometimes it's not that you're not good. It's just maybe sometimes you're not what they're looking for, or they don't want you on the showcases because they had you on last year. Like, there's been a bunch of people who are really good, have gotten so much better, but they were on the showcases last year and they've not been brought back.
Right.
And I'm thinking it's probably because, they were already on and they want to mix it up a wee bit. But the thing I'm finding about competitions as well is that it's not really about how funny you are. Like with So You Think If You're Funny, very weirdly named competition because they say it's not actually about how funny you are, it's about the writing.
Is it?
Yeah, and I just find that very strange. Like, well, why call your competition that? But I was kind of gutted because I did one of their showcases. So everyone who applies for So You Think You're Funny gets their own, like, gets to appear at one of the heats.
Yeah.
So I did one at Glasgow Comedy Festival last year. But so they have two rules. When I applied for it, it was you can only apply for this once, right? And that is a rule they absolutely stand by. You can't apply for it more than once. But they said you have to have done 15 gigs or less, including open spots. And I'd done 2 gigs, so I was like, well, if you can only do 15 gigs or less, I better be quick. And then I got there, it was my 26th gig, and there was people there who'd been in it for like well over a year. They'd done like well over 100 gigs. And so I absolutely killed the showcase, but I was still so very young. A lot of my comedy was very dirty. I was still using terrible puns. So I got nowhere with it, and I was a wee bit gutted about that. So I have a problem with external validation, so if I didn't get through, I feel like, oh, maybe I'm not that good. But then you realise it's not the case. There's lots of different ways to success.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels unfair. Sometimes it feels like competitions use actual new acts as cannon fodder so that they can push up someone who's already quite established, and they just kind of want to like push them through a wee bit more. So that was quite annoying. Another competition I did, which was very good, was the LGBTQ New Comedian of the Year Awards. I did the heat for that in Edinburgh, and 3 of us out of 13 progressed on to the London semi-finals, so I got to do that.
Oh, brilliant.
But oh my God, like so I'd been in Taiwan for 3 weeks in April, got back, had the worst food poisoning in my life for like 3 weeks. Then as soon as I was starting to feel a bit better, had to go down to London, had to do that competition, and I was just feeling absolutely terrible. And the set went a bit weird. It was my first gig in London, so I didn't know what to expect. And my first joke, how to put this? So like, I kind of talk about my upbringing, about how my parents were drug addicts, how I grew up around like really bad poverty. But I don't make that immediately clear with the first joke, and so I think I felt them pulling back a bit because maybe they thought I was about to make fun of them. And the annoying thing is I started, as you know, with a lot of like dirty gay sex stuff. But I kind of tried to pull back on that because I realized people were getting quite disgusted quite quickly when I was doing like more established gigs. Like I remember doing one in East Kilbride where I told 2 really dirty jokes in a row, and they started to pull back, and I didn't have enough material to pivot. So I started working on cleaner stuff. It was still dark because that's the kind of thing I go towards, but because that's, you know, where I come from. But when I got to the gay stuff when I was there, they loved that. I was like, damn, I should have just like done all of this. Dirty cum jokes. Well, 10 minutes in, right? That's okay.
Cum is as natural as it gets, so I don't know. I don't think that's a swear word.
That's true. It's beautiful.
Exactly. We're all here cause it.
And delicious.
So see when you're, as you say, you're the filthiest comic probably on the scene at the minute.
You think?
That I've seen
last night. I said some stuff, man.
Oh, right, I thought you were. Aye, so when you're doing competitions, for example, BBC, are you getting in and saying, "Oh, hi, I was felching last night" or whatever? Are you getting in and doing the same stuff that I see you doing in the salsa and all that? Or?
I did a bloody fundraiser for West Lothian Pride a few weeks ago, and everyone was loving it, apart from this one table of very old people. I was like, they're totally going back to their grandkids. Like, what's felching? Like, so you dress up as the janitor for Harry Potter, Granny. Don't look up that cream pie recipe. That's the thing though with the BBC. I sent them a really filthy set I did at the stand, put me on the shortlist, did a really dirty set there, and like even the producers who were up the back, they were laughing really loudly at it. But I have a really good friend who got to the semis called Alex Gibbon, who's absolutely fantastic, and his material was quite a bit dirty as well, but it was nowhere near as dirty as mine. And he told me they were a bit worried about putting him on, so I'm thinking maybe it was just that I was too filthy. Like but yeah, nowadays I'm getting a lot better of gauging what an audience might like and trying to like put things in, figure out if they would like a joke, you know, coming up, if I should change it or if I should, you know, cut it or go all in on it. But I tried to be cleaner with competitions. I had like a 5 set that was very much about how came from Castlemont, parents were addicts, and I kind of grew up you know, growing up gay there as well, being hard, but accepting that, then getting into uni and going abroad, and how my life's gotten a lot better. So no, I tried to kind of weave a nice wee inspirational story into it instead of just being like jizz. So, at the same time, man, sometimes that's where my head goes. Like I've been trying to write a lot more recently, and like it's just boom, spit roasting just comes in. Like let's do a joke about spit roast.
I mean, sometimes that happens with me as well. Just kind of sitting and work, and you're like, oh.
Wouldn't mind a bit of
triangle
that.
tits, yeah, that's just coming into my head. Aye, that's a question that I've completely forgot. So, as I'm saying, with your style of comedy is very kind of close to bone. So, who were your kind of influences when you were? Did you have any? I mean, I don't really like your kind of style is kind of like kind of Eddie Izzard and Julian Clary and stuff like that. You know, like proper back in the day. Aye,
Like people, I didn't have any influences growing up. Like obviously, I saw comedians. Like sometimes I would watch Mock the Week or Have I Got News for You, or you'd see it on the TV. But I was never like a massive fan of stand up. I think I'd watched like a few Frankie Boyle specials. That was I'd watched them once like one night and thought, oh, that was funny. But then like I never went to any stand up shows until 2019. I have a friend who's now also a comedian called Matthew Hayhow who was doing Fringe reviews. And because he's got a disability, he got an extra ticket for someone to come in with him. So I was like his personal assistant for the weekend. And he took me to a bunch of stand-up shows. And at that time, I was very self-conscious, unemployed, just very low self-esteem. And like everything I saw, I was like, I could never do that, even if it was really easy. And then I saw stand-up and I was like, I think I could actually do that. And I thought I would apply for Red Raw that year, but I shat it. And I thought, I'll do it next year in 2020. Nope.
No,
Finally applied in 2022. I think it was around summer. They got me a slot for December that year. And I remember I found my set, man, like the first one I was planning, and it was atrocious. I was like, oh, you heard about that diabetic K-pop band? They're called Diabetes. If I went up there and did that, I would have just never taken to the stage again, man. Like I sometimes go, I see people like, 18-year-olds doing stand-up. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done it at that age. And I'm like, no, this was the right time.
I'm the same. Because I think about the things that I thought were funny when I was 18.
Aye.
Would not have I never thought I'd be able to go on stage because I feel as if I'm funny in a room with people talking, but I never thought I'd be able to kind of translate it onto stage.
People always told me that as well. Like people said, oh my God, you need to try stand-up. And I was like, I don't want to be one of those people who's obviously, their pals went, oh mate, you should try stand-up. You're pure funny. Then they get up there and die in their ass.
Aye.
But like, yeah, because there's a certain skill in taking something that's funny, but then being able to structure it in a way that makes people who have no idea what you're talking about get it and laugh. Yeah. But yeah, I forgot your question. Influences. Don't have them.
aye. So I mean, that's kind of fair. I'm the same. I mean, when I went to start comedy, I would watch Carrot Top because I thought if he can do it, I can do it. Like that's the kind of that was my thinking because I'd be watching people like Norm Macdonald and Mitch Hedberg who are like my two favourites. I'm like, I'm never getting there. So I kind of dumbed it right down and went to the bottom. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. No bother. Just bring out a pair of big glasses.
That's what I did way before I started. In 2019, after that Fringe, I started going to Red Raw just to watch that. And I stupidly thought everyone on there was doing it for the first time. And like you're seeing professionals doing like 10 minutes and you're like, wow, that's their first time doing it, isn't it? But like, you would see people down their arse. And I wasn't taking notes, but I was like mentally just kind of noticing what it would be that worked and what it would be that didn't work. And I was kind of thinking, what could I make a joke about? What would I talk about if I got up there? And yeah, then just kind of started writing a lot and it was quite rambly. And then I was just like, what is the crucial information here that someone needs to get from like set up to the punchline?
Aye.
So that was what I did. It was really amazing though, man. Like going to Red Raw and then like for years just watching it and being like, God, I wish I could get up there, but then being like terrified, thinking if I get up there, I could be humiliated in front of like, 200 odd people.
Yeah, it's a big room, man.
Then 4 months into comedy, because my first gig was supposed to be Red Raw, December. I was up for nights writing this set. Then I was quite sick. I'd had like 4 hours sleep. I was exhausted, and then the show was starting in 3 hours. And 2 hours before it started, we got an email saying that there'd been a leak and they cancelled the show.
Oh,
and I was half gutted and half like, thank God. So then I went and did my first gig about 3 weeks after that in Jesters at Jimmy's at the Park Bar in Ibrox, 10 minutes from my house, and it went amazing.
Aye.
For a first time, I was so happy with it. Looking back on it, like I think it's terrible, but I was really happy with it. Then in April, I finally got to do the stand, and I just totally killed it. Like I had to cut like a minute off my set because people were laughing so long, and I was just like, it's such an amazing feeling, and like I've done it 6 times now, and they're getting me on 3 spots at the Best of Red Raw at the Fringe.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
It's amazing to kind of look back at that, of being like in the audience thinking, oh, I could get up here and I'd be absolutely terrible. And now you're like, come to the Best of Red Raw at the Fringe. And
brilliant, man.
It's just mental when you can look at back at like. So even if I don't get into comedy competitions, I look back and like clearly I'm progressing. Clearly I'm getting
Definitely.
somewhere.
I don't rest your laurels in comedy competitions, folks. That's the moral of the story. Right, I always going to ask this, and you might not remember it or want to tell it. What was your first joke you ever wrote?
I still use it sometimes. But so my first joke, I got up. So I was like 280 pounds. I had a big beard. I had like glasses. I looked a bit like an incel, I thought. So I went up there.
But you basically described me there with the glasses.
Somebody, you're not You've not got hair.
It's just big fat messed up. That's my fault. That's my 10 minutes.
You make it work very well. But I didn't even think I could. I thought I was going to go up there and they're going to think he's got him bad things to say about women. So I was like, I need to make it clear I'm gay and I need to say something funny. So my first joke was that I'm probably not what you imagine when you think of a slapper. But when I got my sperm count tested, it only came back high because I sent them a throat swab.
Oh, is that your first joke?
That was my first joke.
That's amazing. I have seen you do that one. That is really impressive.
Yeah, when I came up with that, I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
There is like a time when you're sitting doing your writing jokes, you're like, nothing's coming, and then one hits and you're like, right.
No.
Aye.
That's amazing. But the weird thing about comedy as well, like everyone's had it, is when like you've got something you think it's going to be hilarious and it just gets head, but then you've got something that you think, and then people are like, "Why?" It's like, what the fuck?
I don't know how it works, but glad it does, to be honest. But there are some times where you get up there with an absolute class joke and you're like, nah, this is just
too smart for you.
Aye. And then I've had you on at the Village Inn as well, my show in Newt Hill.
Oh yeah, that was my first. That was the first 10 minutes I had where I decided to kind of try and move away from the dirtier stuff, and I remember being really nervous about it.
Aye. How did you feel it went?
I felt it went all right, yeah. I was happy with how it went, but just I remember being more kind of nervous because I knew most of my material was dirty, but I was trying to move away from that, and so I was trying to.
And it's kind of like a Burley Man pub as well, so
yeah,
I did it. Aye, so it was.
I like those ones though.
Aye, I was going to
like
say
they're always up for a laugh.
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't feel like quite a posh audience where they like pull back on anything. So yeah, I like those gigs.
Aye, because it's. I mean, it's totally different. Like, do you have a different set for pub gigs and like club gigs, or is it just? Would you say it's the same?
It depends, really. I think it depends on what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't usually start with the very dirty stuff unless I absolutely know it's going to work. So I kind of try to, ease my way into certain things. That's what I've kind of been working on recently. But no, man, I don't know. Like, I always kind of watch people who are on before me and see what they're kind of getting to kind of get the vibe for it. But I've kind of found that I tend to be getting on really well regardless recently. I think just be yourself, be as funny as you can, have confidence, and I think that will make people buy into it. And just have a good time with the audience. Let them know that you're here with them. You're here to give them a good time.
Aye, because when you pull back and you're not yourself, they can tell straight away.
Yeah.
It's, no, but I mean, it's always a good night when you're on the bill with you, man. Because it is.
You got a shout out from Darren Connor recently.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, man. Yeah. But it was. I've always wanted to do Darren's gig. I mean, like my I've probably mentioned this a few times. Well, aye, my brother he done stand up. Maybe it's a while ago now, 12 years ago actually. And his first ever gig was at Red Raw, and Darren was hosting it.
Oh wow!
And he says, "Oh look," or I think he was headlining. He's like, "I'll look out for this guy." So I've started following him on Facebook, Twitter, and all that kind of carry on. And then obviously it became the guru of Scottish comedy now. He's showing all that. But it just kind of like a bit of a full circle kind of moment with him kind of shouting out and stuff like that.
His was one of the only gigs that I'd went to that wasn't a Red Raw outside of like the fringe ones with my friend. It was Diversity Quota and the Girl Cruise run by Elliot Simpson and a Funny Bunch. In fact, it was the first Funny Bunch that he ever did. I was at because my friend really loved them. And then I finally did it in February this year, and that was like another full circle moment. It was amazing. I remember my pal went out during the break to smoke weed, came back, and then Darren stopped the gig. He went, "I can smell weed," and she was like, "Fuck."
It's something that you always kind of smell in Glasgow, and when you smell it, just the conversation stops. Like, smell it.
Like the devil's lettuce.
Don't do drugs, folks. I get monetized. So you got your own podcast as well with Dean, who we've mentioned before.
Dean and Kyle, who joined us a wee bit later.
Yeah. Kyle just kind of jumped in the bandwagon a bit. He's known for that. He was in here when I had the other podcast with Stevie and Ryan, and he was just slating me the full time. So
Oh, Kyle.
we've fell out a bit. No, we've no all of Kyle as well. But Blood, Sweat and Fear. So what kind of brought that on? Was there?
It was Dean's idea, and one night we were coming back on the train from a gig in Edinburgh, and he was like, "Alan, you like horror films?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Do you want to do a podcast with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine." So I'm not a massive horror fan. Dean is hugely into horror films. Yeah. I sometimes get in the mood for horror films, and I really enjoy them when I enjoy them. But there's so many classics I hadn't seen. I thought this would be a really good way for me to like get properly into horror films and meet other comedians, get their perspectives on things. I was really worried about it at first though, because I'd never done a podcast, and I was like, I don't know if I should tell Dean that I can't do this, because I was just so bloody nervous about it. And I was like, it was really kind of his baby, his idea, and I really didn't want to disappoint him. It's been going really, really well. Like, I remember the first time we had a professional on, it was Darren Connell, who I'd never met, and I was so nervous, and so I think it took a while to kind of get the ball rolling.
Totally.
But now I'm just like, the next time we had like a professional on, I think it was Rachel Jackson. I made like a fisting joke in the first minute, so it was like, just be yourself.
Darren done Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space, yeah. You did Texas Chainsaw. A good friend of mine actually went to see the re-release of that recently in the cinema, and then said that he watched the podcast immediately after that. Said he got a lot out of it.
Oh, good. I think I was on holiday when that run was on, which was absolutely gutting. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's one of my favourite films. It's one of my favourite Christmas films as well that we did cover on your on your podcast. I watched it every Christmas, which was weird. But
watching it with your deed grand at the end of the table.
we are pie Puppy's Hoop mind at the start when they
Puppy's Hoop.
I mind in the start when they excavate the body for the grave and put it on the.
Jesus, lucky.
Yeah. So, you've done the Fringe now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's no right, but you can look back on this then and say, what are you expecting for the Fringe, and then you can come back and look and see, did it meet my expectations? So, what are you expecting for your run? How are you feeling about it?
Well, last year I only did a couple of spots, and the thing that I remember the most is how much my back was hurting through the flyering. So that's what I'm a bit worried about. But me, Kyle, and Dean are doing our show Scream Queens from the 5th to the 10th, and we're doing a live show on the 11th.
This is of August. She's missed it.
Yeah, I don't know if I can actually say what it is yet. Yeah, to be safe, I won't. But so I'm really excited for that. Nervous, but very excited. I think being able to do 15 to 20 minutes of material every day when you so rarely get to do that as an open spot is really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm doing a few other things as well. Like, I've signed up for 2 called Gag Race, which is like a queer comedy night, and then like the audience kind of rate your charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent out of 5. So it's kind of like a play on RuPaul's Drag Race.
I was thinking something totally different there, but
I would win. God, man, you know when like you do jokes about something that's current, and then like even if it's a really funny joke and it's not current anymore, people just stop finding it funny.
Yeah.
Like when that submarine drowned, I said, "Oh, that's like me sucking dick. I don't come up for air," and then and then it stopped being funny because people were like, "Oh, tired of jokes about that."
Aye.
And then people didn't want to hear it about Matthew Perry, so I just cut it. But I'm also doing so another act I saw at the Fringe. It was 2022 before I started. Was a guy from Singapore called Sam C, who I really love. And now I'm doing one of his showcases. It's the
brilliant.
Asian Comedy Showcase. I probably do have some Taiwanese DNA left in me from my trip, but it's I am the token white act on the 22nd of August. So I'm really excited. That's another full circle moment of getting to work with someone that I really admire. So looking forward to that a lot.
Aye, it's good to see you doing well as well, man. Because as I say, you're one of my favourites on the
Thank you, man.
circuit, and it's always fun to see you on it. We've not spoke about Tomb Raider in quite a while, actually. I've just realised.
Yeah.
Aye.
Is that right? They've not had a new game in 6 fucking years.
That's very true. Aye, it's her fault. So I was actually going to bring this up because we were talking about Tomb Raider, but my dog is called Lara.
Oh.
After Lara Croft.
Oh, wow.
Aye. And she's a shite bag. So It was the stupidest. I've got her got her tattooed on my leg. I don't know if you can. I can't lift my leg up that high. I'm not Alan J. But I'm gonna. But Tomb Raider. We'll go back to it then, will we? We'll try our best to go back to it because I think we've filched our way through your. I've got to be honest. I do not know what that means. Like, because the only reason I'm saying it is because on our episode of Blood, Sweat and Fears, you said you were called. You're doing a new Murder She Wrote.
Jessica
Felcher, and I don't know what it means, and I'm just trying to.
Do you know what it is?
No.
Should I tell you? It's not getting monetized if I tell you what felching is.
Right. Okay. I'll look it up.
You know when you've made a really nice pastry,
yeah,
and then you shoot some delicious fresh cream into the pastry,
right? Yeah,
and then that pastry pushes the cream back into your mouth. Delicious.
Oh, right.
So that's it.
Right.
And hopefully, new chocolate comes back out with the cream.
That's a good way to get around that. Actually, that was it.
Well, you know me, I love bacon.
But oh dear. So as I said, this is a peek behind the curtain. This is the first time that I've recorded this podcast. So it has been very fun having you in to talk about all your. I want to say felching again.
It's a fun one, isn't it?
It's really stuck in my head. But so after the Fringe, have you got anything else coming up? Have you got?
I'm starting uni at 31.
Are you?
Yeah, so
right.
Life is going to change, man.
What are you doing at uni?
English and linguistics.
Is that English as a foreign language or?
No. So it's like a proper undergraduate 4-year degree. I never got to go to uni because I dropped out of school, dropped out of so many colleges, and for years it was just like I'm too stupid for education. And then it was kind of due to my therapist, I kind of realised I just never had the opportunity to succeed, whereas now as an adult I do. And before I started comedy, I was like, what would I want to kind of do in life? And one thing I never got to do was travel and see the world. That's why I went to Taiwan this year. And I decided I saw like people who teach English as a foreign language. So I thought, English is always interested me. I've always been good at it. I'll study that. And yeah, now I'm starting it. But it's weird because now I started comedy and that's going really well for me. And I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 years. Like, will I want to go off and kind of give up most of comedy to travel? Or will I, be doing really well at the point where I want to stay here and progress it? But that's a good thing about an English degree. Like, you can either kind of go and travel abroad or I can stay and I can do some teaching here or do a PGDE and see. So, yeah. I don't know if you meant comedy wise, but
no, that's
yeah,
perfect,
man, that's gonna be mental.
So is that because of your upbringing and things like that? Like, did you feel you missed out on a lot?
Yeah, like most of school was just surviving because the bullying was relentless. Because like again, I was always like dirty and stuff, and so I just got bullied every day. Because my parents were addicts, so I wasn't looked after properly. So yeah, it was more about kind of trying to survive. It always made me anxious. I never really learned how to learn until lockdown. I started teaching myself a bit of Chinese, and I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. And due to comedy as well, like again, something I thought that I'd have no chance at, and I kind of realised how much I'd progressed just off of like studying my own sets and just by writing. I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. I thought if I can just apply that to learning something at uni, then I'll be great. And I did an access course and had to get a B and a C, ended up getting an A and a B. And I found that so stressful as well. And like there was like a 2-month period where I was really sick and basically did no studying. Yeah, I still aced it. So yeah, I think I'll be fine. I think it's just getting over that anxiety.
It's the same with everything.
Yeah.
The first time you do it, like the first time you done comedy, things like that, you weren't
God,
like, aye.
Remember the first time I took my hand off the mic stand and I was just shaking like absolute crazy.
Aye, I done my first ever one was in Junkyard. I've got that recorded. Aye.
When was your first gig?
September 21.
Wow.
It was Amanda Hursey was on it. Michael Welch. He headlined it. And Thomas
Elvin?
Craven.
Oh yeah.
The Welsh guy. I've never seen him again.
Oh really?
I think it was a figment of my imagination. It's as if I feel as if I don't want to bring him up in case I've just
he's
totally
not real.
imagined. Aye. Pure Fight Club.
Maybe you manifested him.
Aye, I think I have. But he pops up in my people you may know, and it's like he won't know me. Like it's dead weird. I've never seen him again. But aye, that was my first gig. Was in September 21. So we're and when did you say January 23?
Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
3 years after I said I would.
Aye. That's not your fault. I mean, I get into it because it was like I'd always wanted to try it, and then it was like lockdown happened,
Yeah.
and it's like now I can't. Now you're telling me I can't do something.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. Kind of thing. Aye.
Reverse psychology.
Exactly. Aye. So it was. That was the reason that I get into it. But
How did it go for you? I kind of want to see it.
I've recorded it on my phone. It's just my voice. It's just voice recording. But I went all right. There was a bucket collection at the end, and the two guys hosting it left with a bucket, which was. And then I thought that's just standard. And then now I'm like, oh, hold on,
Yeah, bastards.
aye. But you get that. But no, it is a great scene to be a part of the new as well. And look, there's loads of new folk coming through too. Like Alan Ritchie, he got into the final
The Laurel Awards.
and
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like
we
that.
were there. I think we were pretty close. So when I applied for it, there was supposed to be 2 runners up.
Aye, Peter was saying that.
Yeah, and like there were a few people who did really well who I thought would have been, but they ended up just having a winner. But nobody told us, and I went up. I was like, "What about the runners up?" And it's like, "You're all runners up." And I thought, "Oh, come on!"
Aye.
So I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to put runner up, Laurel's Award." She did say we're all runners up, so I can do it. But no, that was an amazing night, man. Like bloody Gavin Mitchell, who played Bobby the Barman, was there, and like I grew up obviously loving Bobby, and like he was really complimentary about my set. Like I was the first person to go on and get like applause breaks and stuff. And
brilliant.
so like it felt really, really good. Even though I didn't win, again, it was the kind of thing where it's like I still did really well here, and I should still be very happy.
Exactly, definitely, man. It's a gig. That's the way you just need to look at these kind of competitions as it is. It's just a gig. But see, as I say, this is my first time recording it, and I've run out of things to say.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. We can talk about whatever you like. I don't even know how long we've done. I've not got a watch. I've got like a wee gay bracelet that I've been wearing, but it's like on my watch arm. And so I keep looking at it to check the time, and it's like oh, it's faggot o'clock.
How long have we got, Craigie? Oh, right, okay.
we go.
Another 50 minutes, then that'll do us. You can cut this bit out, eh?
Don't cut out the faggot o'clock bit, though.
That counts. That's getting clipped. I thought you were wanting monetised. But, yeah. Right, so I'm going to try and get back into Tomb Raider then. Right, we'll try and do something with this. So, I'm lost, Alan. You need to help me. I wrote all this down, right? Right. So I'll go through style of comedy, influences. See, comedy competitions. We're just back to that again. So that's why you write things down, and then you need to read. See, when you write things down, you need to read them. That's what I've recently learned. So, Blood, Sweat and Fears, horror, Lara Croft, hard as fuck. Let's combine them. Who would you fancy Lara Croft against as a horror villain?
Jesus.
See, because I'm thinking like Michael Myers. He just gets up all the time.
Aye, so does she, man. That just fucking going forever.
Aye, that's true. Aye, just non-stop.
That reboot, she's getting like rebar on her side. She's getting bloody pumped by wolves. It's just aye. Michael Myers is a good shout. Maybe Freddy Krueger.
Aye.
My stretch marks look like I got a rusty trombone for Freddy Krueger, to be honest.
Is your stretch marks on your side or on your arsehole?
Well, every time I lose my birth certificate, I just take a picture of my hole and count the rings.
See, that's pure Julian Cleary. Like that's. Do you know?
I know. Like again, I grew up knowing all these people well and seeing maybe wee shots of them on TV, but I never like watched anything specifically.
Well, there's a thing with Julian Cleary talking about getting a very prominent. I can't remember the guy's name. A very prominent Tory politician through the back getting him a rim job. He goes out and says, "I was just through the back getting somebody a rim job," and it's just the place just falls apart. And that's what you remind me of.
I mean, Dean said that he thought I was most closely to Alan Carr one time, and Peter Bell was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
That's just because you've got glasses on. I mean, Peter's very Dean is very autistic. It could have worked with Peter there as well. But aye, he's just went, you kind of look, you've got glasses, you've square glasses. So
You're a gay
Alan.
Specky Alan, you're both the same.
Exactly, innit? No, I wouldn't say you're like Alan. Well, Alan Carr has got his dirty side.
It does. What have I got? I've got gay Frankie Boyle, and fat Frankie Boyle as well. I've had that. One of the judges at the Laurel said I was like Kevin Bridges, but I don't know if I'd say myself.
I think if you're on stage, they'd say you're like Kevin Bridges.
Really?
You're like, not you personally. I think they just said everybody.
Aye.
They also said that you would. Did they say you would do really well in Blackpool?
No.
They said that to everybody when we were doing
The fuck?
when we were doing our thing. But so when I done the Laurel Awards and didn't get through, and I'm no shitting on other folk, but I feel as if I should have got through. And the day after, I had to message somebody, Tom for the keg, Tom Kennedy. I messaged him like, mate, I need to go on the stage, because if I don't, this will stew inside me for ages and I'll never do it again.
God, I've had gigs like that, man, where you just feel horrible. Like, I think my worst was I did a gig in December, very last minute, and it was like, you looked out in the audience, it was either silver or bald. Very posh place. First guy got up, professional comic, gay comic, but wasn't doing a lot of dirty material.
Yeah.
He was doing a lot of kind of some of it was quite serious. It was like he had a health scare, but it was also, he made it very, very funny. And like, I'm up the back with Pierce Higgins, who was the other open spot, and we're both laughing because it's really, really funny. But the audience just aren't getting it. And any of the gay stuff as well, they're just like totally pulling back on. And I was on like after the break, and I was just shitting it. And even though I'd gotten better at not doing dirty stuff and talking more about Castlemilk, they just weren't buying into any of it at all. It was just, I felt horrible after it. And like, I tried everything and it just wasn't working. I just felt terrible after it. And yeah, man, it's pure terrible. Like, again, I'm trying not to, it's that external validation thing, isn't it? It's like, you can't let it affect you, but at the same time, as a comedian, you know you're doing well because it's other people who are laughing. So it's a hard one. But then again, I when I did the Fringe last year, again, it was mostly only dirty material, and I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. Go up in front of a crowd where it was like two old grannies and their 16-year-old grandkids with like another generation in between. And I'm just like, come, am I right? Rimming a pensioner, and it's just silence. And I'm like, for the next like 9 minutes, it was like Ian Pringle and Paddy Linton that were running it, and I really liked them, and I didn't want to disappoint them. I was like, oh, no, it's their gig. I don't want them to, bomb it. So I just tried everything I could and eventually managed to kind of get them back on side a wee bit. I think they just kind of enjoyed the fact that I was acknowledging how bad it was going and just like bringing out the puns. I'm like, oh, did you hear that member of Fleetwood Mac was a chronic shoplifter? Can't I believe how much Stevie Nicks? And they're like, tried to more shit like that, and then it was going to and I'm like, okay, diminishing returns on the puns.
But I mean, it is like, you're always kind of, you're kind of taught to be kind of confident. You're like, don't bother what anybody else thinks about you. Yeah. But you're up on stage and you're like, I'm so bothered with what you think of me. Yeah. Like, I need you to love me, and if you don't, then it's going to be horrific. But it's that kind of juxtaposition, you say, where it's just like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me, but I need you to love me. Yeah, right. For these 10 minutes, love me. I think an audience as well can tell if someone doesn't give a fuck that they're there. Like, I've seen, like, I was at the Panopticon one night, and an act got up there who was just telling bad joke after bad joke, and it was like they were enjoying it because they were just being there, but the audience weren't. And like, it got to the point where it was just complete silence for every punchline, but they were doing their set as normal. And I got to one point where a joke just ended, and all you heard was in this big music hall, and I was like, oh my god. I think the only laughing he could probably hear was me up the back. Just like, I've got a bad case of Schadenfreude. Like, so I was just like, this is the best thing I have ever seen. Aye. But I mean, I'm trying to think of like big bombs that I had. I think I've got one recorded on my phone where it was somebody that went up before me and done Rotten, and then it was Ralph Brown that was headlining it, and like, I love Ralph Brown. I think he's fantastic. And I was on with him, and then like, I'd done one joke that got a good laugh, and I just listened to that over and over again. Just that one, the Dragon Inn joke, just got a good laugh. And then I met Ralph at one of Des McLean's gig, and I'm like, I remember. I don't know if you remember me. We done a gig like that. It was in Perth, and somebody else was on it. And I'm like, I've got better. I promise you I've got better. He's like, I don't really remember you. I just remember the guy that opened it. And he was, aye.
I've not met Ralph Brown a lot. I don't know if we've gigged together, but the first time I ever spoke to Ralph was at the stand at a Red Raw, and in the men's toilet, someone had managed to shit up the back of the toilet, like projectile diarrhea all over the stall. And I was walking out and Ralph was heading off as an act was on to use the toilet, and I went, don't use the cubicle. He went, all right, mate. And I was like, he's going to think I've just shut up the back of the stand toilet. I was terrified. I waited by the door and they came back. I went, Ralph, by the way, that wasn't me. And he was like, oh, don't worry, I didn't think it was. God, at the end of that gig, a guy like collapsed. I think he was like full of gear, just collapsed like at the fucking door as we were walking out. Like, cool. I was like, I bet it was him. Like, we know.
Aye.
Kind of wish I was on that night so I could be like, we're no fucking leaving until we find out who did that.
Hey, lights up. show me your fingernail.
Show me. I've got a picture here. I'll show you. If you can put it on the clip if you want. Actually, I was like, "This is disgusting. I don't want this on my phone, but it has to be recorded."
Aye, I definitely want to see that. There was a time where I was gigging for Jamie Henning. Does loads of gigs in Kilmarnock and stuff like that. And Viv G was on, and they says, "Oh, like, just go on and do." Somebody had put it was like, "Just go on and do a couple of minutes, stuff like that." And I get really bubble gut before I go in, and I'm like, but if somebody goes on and says, right, here's Alan Thomson, I'm like, right, I can go and do it and I'm fine. But the waiting fucking kills me.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I can't hold this in. So I had to run to the toilet. And as I was doing the toilet, folk were battering the door because she had introduced me.
Just hand you the mic and you did it for the shit.
I'm Alan Thomson. So and it's in front of Viv G. You know what I mean? The godmother of Scottish
she does comedy courses. She's seen worse shite than actual shite.
Did you do a comedy course? No.
No, I was gone, but I never ended up doing it. No. I'm kind of glad I didn't. I've noticed that, not in a bad way, like they're very helpful and they give you the tools to be funny that I feel will help. So if you're actually funny, she gives you the tools that will actually help it come out. Like she gave me advice that was amazing just for meeting her one night. Totally. But I've noticed that sometimes like a lot of the sets will have a kind of similar structure. And it's like, I feel like if I'd done a course, I might have been very kind of felt like I had to really stick to that and it would have taken me longer to kind of break free of it. So nothing against comedy courses. Like if you want to do one. But I think for me, it was kind of better to kind of go out there and try it my own way and kind of, learn from my own mistakes.
Aye. I mean, it's tougher. It's a tougher way to do it is to go out there and. I mean, it's always been very supportive, but to have a support network that you've come up with through a course, but as well, it's people telling you you're good when you're not necessarily good.
I just want to do one for the stories I've heard, man. I heard that someone told a cancer joke and someone else went and booted a hole in the wall. And I was like, I feel like you could go there just to write material for what happens on the actual comedy course.
Because there's advanced courses and stuff that I've seen, and I've thought, like, what would that entail? And but I'd feel bad as an open spot getting into an advanced course, but at the same time, I don't need the kind of things that they would teach at the beginning type of thing. I think it's just better.
Oh, I think it'd be fine. I know Dean did it actually. He said he got a lot out of it. Yeah.
Ah, well, that's another thing to write down. Talk about Dean about it. But right, we're nearing the end. So if you remember, we were talking about Tomb Raider earlier, and that's the full reason for this. I don't suppose you could just sum up what Lara Croft and Tomb Raider mean to you.
What was it? I say, but growing up was really difficult for me, and video games always provided a really good form of escapism. Like it meant that while I was stuck in a fucking shitty, unclean house in Castlemilk, I could just get lost in like all these different places. Like, like 1 minute you're just a wee bullied boy in Castlemilk, your parents are shooting up in the next room, but then you're like this big, powerful woman who's like gone abroad and stealing for foreigners, but we won't talk about that.
It's just British, isn't it?
Like if she was real, she'd be a Tory. But like we tried to ignure that.
I should have voted Tory 100%.
But yeah, just we provided such an amazing form of escapism. Like that's what I love about video games. Like it was a very special moment in Taiwan. So I grew up playing a lot of Japanese games as well, where you'd see all this amazing stuff, and then like I just got very emotional. I was in this Taiwanese, it was like a shrine built by when they were colonized by the Japanese.
Right.
And it was just like, it is amazing to see something like this with my own eyes and stand on it. Like, I remember just getting quite emotional and quite teary, and it was just like, it's amazing. This is actually real. And yeah, I think it was Tomb Raider that really kind of helped foster that interest in other cultures and other places in the world. And now that I'm in a stage where I can actually, got my first passport a year ago, and now that I'm using it, it's beautiful. It's really amazing. And Tomb Raider really helped that. And they remastered the first 3 games recently, and getting to kind of relive that has just been incredible. And yeah, a lot of fans really hate where the series is going nowadays, but I'm here for it, man. Like, whatever happens, I'm just glad it's not died like so many other things I love.
Very true.
Like
very
my parents.
That's a great way to round it up. So there we go.
Thanks for having me, Al.
Thank you very much for coming in, Alan, and all the best trips, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.